So in the Bill of Rights, there's some amendments that specifically pertain to forensic science, and probably the biggest one that plays a factor on our field is the Fourth Amendment, which deals with search and seizure. The Fourth Amendment says the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. That's the entire Fourth Amendment. So you can tell there's some pretty specific things in there, right? You have the right not to have any searches or seizures against you be unreasonable. You have to have a warrant, there has to be probable cause, and it has to be for specific things. So here's kind of the gist of what they're saying in the Fourth Amendment, okay? So these are the requirements that you have to have in order to be granted a search warrant. So if say a police officer wants to get a search warrant for a specific location, they think that there's a murder weapon at this house, something like that, okay? First of all, they have to have probable cause, okay? Which probable cause is reasonable belief based on facts that evidence of a crime is present in the place or on the person to be searched. So they have to have some reason. It can't just be like, well, I think so. There's got to be some type of factual evidence that would support them wanting to search a specific place or person. They have to take that probable cause to a judge, and the officer has to clearly describe why there's probable cause to a judge. So they have to plead their case. So they have to go to the judge and say, look, we've interviewed, 7 witnesses who all say that they have this particular gun and it's located in this particular place. There's a gun registered to this person, etc., etc. Okay, they have to be able to describe their case. If the judge agrees, so the judge says, okay, that is probable cause, then the warrant is written and it specifically describes the place and person that's to be searched and who and what is to be seized. So they would say, okay, you're looking for a 9mm Glock. You may look in the bedroom of the suspect only, okay, because that's where everybody said that it was located and that's the weapon they're looking for. So then when they give the search warrant to the individual, they're only allowed to look in that room and they're only looking for that particular gun. Okay, so they're very specific for what they're written for. Okay, so those are the 3 requirements you have to have for a search warrant. Probable cause. The officer has to describe why there's probable cause to a judge, and the judge has to agree, and it has to be written specifically for the location and what it is to be searched. The biggest reason why evidence is not admitted into court is because it's illegal search and seizure. So usually, if evidence is thrown out of court, it's because there was some type of illegal activity with the search and seizure. Either they didn't follow the search warrant exactly, they didn't have a search warrant, they obtained it wrongly, but most of the time when evidence gets thrown out in court, this is the reason why. There was illegal search and seizure activity happening at some point. All right, there are a few exceptions for searches without a warrant. So there's a few things that can happen that can cause police officers or detectives to be able to search an area without having a warrant present. The first thing is that the evidence is in plain view. So say the police officers arrive at your house and they say, may we come in and talk to you, and you let them in and there's a gun sitting on the table right in front of them. They don't need a search warrant for that. It's in plain view, okay? It has to be physically in view. They can't have to open a drawer. They can't have to open a cabinet. It has to be in plain view. A person who's legally able gives verbal consent. So if you come in and the officers say, may we search your kitchen, and you say yes, you may, and you're of age and you live there, then then basically they are allowed to search, and then whatever they find is allowed to be used in court. Exigent circumstances, this is where immediate action is needed to prevent physical harm, preserve physical evidence, or prevent escape. So they're allowed to do searches without a warrant if it's like they're, somebody's like about ready to jump off a building and they're searching like the purse for a phone number, or it's extenuating circumstances where like immediate action needs to happen, or somebody's trying to escape and they have to like go and find them, or different things like that. Number four, Number four, when arrested, a person is searched along with any property within their reach. So if you're arrested, they're allowed to search your whole being, pockets, shoes, anything like that. If you had a purse on you, they would be allowed to search that. So when you're arrested, anything on you is allowed to be searched without a warrant. Abandoned property. So say you're on the run and you drop a gun or you drop drugs or something in like an abandoned area, like on the side or in a garbage can or something like that. That's free reign. They don't need a search warrant to check there. Working modes of transportation. This one's kind of funky because if they have probable cause and say the evidence that they want to search is in a car or a vehicle, and the vehicle could be driven somewhere that they can no longer find after they get a search warrant, that's a little bit different. So say that they think you have a weapon in your car, and they have multiple sources that say that the weapon is in your car, they could probably search your car without a search warrant, because if by the time they went and got the warrant and then came back and served it to you, you could drive the car somewhere that they would never be able to find. So working modes of transportation is an exception. And then biological substances left behind. Fingerprints, DNA, hair fibers. You see these on all the crime shows, right? They have somebody come in and they interview them and they give them like a cup of coffee and they drink from the coffee and then they swab it for DNA, right? So anything that you leave behind on cups, on toothbrushes, on things like that, those are exceptions, right? They don't have to have a search warrant for something that is in their plain sight, okay? Something that they have. But without those exceptions, they're pretty tight on it. And even with the exceptions, the officers have to show that there was a reason for the exception. If they can't, it gets thrown out of court. So I feel like detectives and police officers are often very, very cautious with evidence that they're searching and seizing, because they know that if they don't play it by all the book and all the rules, it's not going to end up being allowed in court. And if that's what their case is tipping on, that piece of evidence, they'll lose. So they try to be really, really cautious about making sure that they're following the search and seizure protocols as carefully as possible, because if they don't, and you get arrested and you get charged and you get all the way to the trial, and they can prove that the search and seizure wasn't done properly, then the evidence gets thrown out in court and they lose. Okay? So there's your kind of Fourth Amendment information for you.